China is estimated to have about 290 nuclear weapons. Of the five signatories of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, it has the fewest amount of warheads. Compared to other countries like Russia with 6,500 and the United States 6,100, this is a pittance. But the policies that the Chinese government have implemented around its nuclear weapons and what it implies about their usage is worth exploring. This is a short overview of China's nuclear weapon strategy, tactics, and command structures. The foremost thing you need to know about China's nuclear strategy is its no first use policy. It's pretty self-explanatory. It means that China will not be the first to use nuclear weapons at any time or under any circumstances. China is the first nuclear-armed country in the world to adopt this policy. It did so in 1964, seeking partly to avoid sparking a three-way international arms race between itself, the Soviets, and the United States. Those other countries have repeatedly declined to take up the policy despite international pressure. The PLA recently reaffirmed its adherence to the policy in a July 2019 defense white paper. On a practical level, no first use policy makes sense for China. The PLA does not have missiles as advanced as those in the United States. Less than half of those weapons are capable of hitting the continental United States, though there are US bases in Guam and Japan, which for strategic purposes, if hit, will invoke a equal response as if they had hit something in the continental United States. It is also unable to hit any of the United States' nuclear second strike capability, meaning that you can't stop the missiles, you can't stop a retaliatory attack. Its weapons are broad sledgehammers, 200 and 300 kiloton yields as compared to the USB 61 bombs, which are capable of yielding just 0.3 kilotons. This means that if one is used, then it's going to cause maximum damage and elicit an immediate, immense retaliatory response. But at the same time, the policy has deep philosophical roots in China's military. It goes all the way back to Chairman Mao himself and the first generation of PLA generals. They have always believed that the utility of having nuclear weapons is limited in war. Deng Xiaoping made his views clear in the 1980s. Because with nuclear weapons, if you have them, I will have them. If we have more, I will have more. And perhaps no one will dare to use them. Conventional war, on the other hand, is possible. Which opens up kind of the way the Chinese generals see it. You have to have nuclear weapons in case someone uses them against you, but you can fight with conventional armies with conventional weapons, and those can win wars, not necessarily nukes. No first use thus allows China's PLA to focus on its Navy, Air Force, Army, and cyber warfare, seeking to win conventional battles in a local context against local actors. It attempts to win those, hoping to de-escalate things far short of nuclear weapons. It will utilize China's immense size and population to wear down the enemy and achieve victory, or at least a favorable ending. In 2015, China reorganized and modernized its armed forces, the People's Liberation Army, PLA, with the goal of improving the lines of command. One notable reform is the creation of the PLA Rocket Force, 中国人民解放军火箭军. I don't even know if I even got that half right. The PLA Rocket Force is co-equal to the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and is responsible for maintaining China's conventional and nuclear missiles. Whether that includes the nuclear weapons maintained by the PLA, Air Force, and Navy is not clear. The Chinese Communist Party is paranoid and controlling. That insecurity and paranoia expressed in the way they arm their nuclear weapons. The no first use policy means that they will never need to arm their weapons unless an attack has already happened. There are rumors that the nuclear warheads are stored separately from the missiles themselves, so paranoid that they may be accidentally fired. China will wait and confirm the attack before retaliating, even if it means some tactical loss, like, Shanghai and its 30 million people getting annihilated. The Rocket Force thus reports to one authority, the Central Military Commission, the power behind the Communist Party's throne. Made up of party officials and military types, it directly controls the PLA. The signal for firing a nuke comes from this panel and nowhere else. This has been confirmed in repeated interviews with dozens of current and retired Rocket Force officers. Virtually all of China's military policy materials regarding the firing of its nuclear weapons comes down to this: when the CMC says you should. I find that pretty amusing. And what does the CMC think? Well, nobody knows. Nothing public has ever been made about what the CMC thinks or will do. It's hard enough to find photos of it. It's left entirely to what those men want to and say. The PLA's current focus is on beating the United States in certain theaters of war. This is pretty obvious. They have studied much of the Cold War doctrines and material to get a sense of what the Americans believe about using nuclear weapons and how they might conduct nuclear warfare. For the most part, it appears that the conclusion is that the USA will not militarily intervene on behalf of an East Asian ally, like Taiwan or Japan, using nuclear weapons. Rather, they believe that the US officials will work behind the scenes to first defuse the situation. But if the chips are down, though, the Chinese PLA military planners believe the US will abandon the ally, even if it means a titanic loss of face, rather than risk nuclear damage to its homeland. With all that being said, the soldiers and planners of the PLA are not super gung-ho about testing this assumption. If a conventional war is going badly, then it is just as likely to seek a face-saving resolution or even lose a titanic amount of face by terminating the war on unfavorable terms than fire off its nuclear weapons, with the core goal being that the regime survives for another day. So it seems that if there is one thing that China believes that it cannot survive, that is a full-bore nuclear war, which I probably would not say is unreasonable. All right, everyone, that's a short one. Have a good night.